Hey there, and welcome to today's Explainer. We're about to trace the absolute wild journey of a product, from the moment it's just a tiny spark of an idea in someone's head, all the way to its full-blown production on the factory floor. Consider this a sneak peek into your upcoming operations management lectures, specifically diving into Chapter 5 on the design of goods and services and Chapter 7 on process strategy. Let's get into it.
Here is our incredibly packed roadmap for today. We're hitting the product life cycle, the house of quality, the 4 basic process strategies, the absolute miracle of mass customization, and finally, strategy, capacity, and layout.
All right, Part 1, the product life cycle.
So how exactly are products born? How do they grow? And, well, how do they eventually fade away? It's all about cash flow, really. Every product goes through 4 main phases: introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. You know that massive dip below the profit line at the very beginning? Yeah, that means a company is bleeding cash during the development and introduction phases. It takes a ton of capital to nail down the manufacturing techniques and fine-tune a design for the market. It's only later, if the product is actually a hit, that they finally recover those losses and start raking in those hard-earned profits before the inevitable decline kicks in.
And because those product life cycles don't last forever, and getting them off the ground is so incredibly expensive, operations managers simply can't pursue every single cool idea. They rely on the Pareto principle. It's a really ruthless product-by-value analysis. They literally have to invest their resources into the critical few and completely ignore the trivial many. Basically, if a concept isn't going to bring in a massive annual dollar contribution, it's getting cut.
Moving right along to Part 2, the house of quality. Okay, let's say you've hypothetically picked your winning concept. How do you turn those abstract things the market says they want into an actual, rigorous blueprint? Well, operations management loves its jargon, right? So here it is: Quality Function Deployment, or QFD for short. It sounds complicated, but honestly, it's just an analytical tool. It's the ultimate reality check to make absolutely sure engineers are building exactly what the customer asked for. It takes the customer's wants and translates them into hows, the specific, actionable attributes that the actual business departments can understand and execute. To make this translation happen, managers build what's called the house of quality. It's a super straightforward step-by-step methodology. First, you figure out what the customer actually wants. Second, you pinpoint exactly how the product is going to satisfy those wants. Then you link the two together, rank how important everything is, and boom, deploy it through a quality plan. This totally forces everyone, from research and development all the way to manufacturing, to align what they are doing with those initial customer desires. Which brings us to Part 3, 4 basic process strategies. So, the rigorous blueprint is finished. The house of quality is built. Now, let's head over to the factory floor. How do operations managers decide the absolute best way to physically manufacture the product? Well, pretty much every good or service on the planet relies on one of 4 basic process strategies. You've got process focus for low volume but high variety. Think of the specialized care at Arnold Palmer Hospital. Then there's repetitive focus, like Harley-Davidson putting together modular motorcycles. For high volume but low variety, that's product focus, like Frito-Lay churning out chips. And lastly, mass customization, high volume and high variety, like Dell computers.
Let's put the two extremes side by side to really see the contrast here. A process focus demands huge flexibility and incredibly specialized departments. It's an intermittent process. Think about a hospital performing totally unique life-saving surgeries. Every patient is different. Now contrast that with a product focus. That is all about crazy high efficiency and a continuous flow. We're talking millions of identical, perfectly standardized potato chips flying off a Frito-Lay assembly line. One is all about flexible, customized jobs. The other is pure, continuous, standardized output.
All right, Part 4, the mass customization miracle. But it makes you wonder. What if a company wants to have its cake and eat it too? What if they want the unique, customized variety of a specialized job shop, but with the lightning speed and super low costs of a massive continuous factory? Enter mass customization. This is the absolute operational sweet spot, producing precisely what the individual customer wants, exactly when they want it, and doing it cheaply. This is incredibly difficult to pull off. It places immense demands on managers to perfectly orchestrate agile processes, logistics, and crazy complex supply chains. So how on earth do they actually make it work? Well, companies pull off this miracle by relying on a few key strategies. The absolute biggest one is build to order, or BTO, production. Instead of guessing with inaccurate sales forecasts and letting inventory gather dust in a warehouse, they only produce when an actual customer order comes in.
And to do that quickly, you need wildly imaginative, modular product design. Take Ping golf clubs, for example. They literally mix and match modular club heads, grips, and shafts to whip up 20,000 unique custom variations. It's brilliant. But it demands razor-tight scheduling and incredibly collaborative supply chains to deliver tailored products on a massive scale without breaking the bank.
And finally, part 5, strategy, capacity, and layout. For our last stretch today, let's talk about how the process strategy a firm chooses totally dictates its physical layout and capacity. Figuring out capacity is notoriously tricky, especially for service businesses. Look, a restaurant or a hospital can't just stockpile a haircut or a surgery for later, right? So they use what's called a chase strategy. They're constantly chasing demand in real time. If there's a massive unexpected rush of customers, they don't have backstock to pull from. They have to dynamically match output by varying their workforce levels, calling in part-time staff, or utilizing overtime on the fly.
And this leads us to something super clever: focused factories. Normally, when you think about changing a factory's layout to meet demand, you picture forklifts moving heavy machines around. But what about the service sector? Burger King is actually an amazing example of a focused factory. Think about the lunch rush. They balance their assembly line not by unbolting fryers and sliding physical grills across the kitchen, but by shifting what their people are doing. They reconfigure personnel and task assignments. Basically, their functional layout transforms multiple times a day just by changing how their crew moves around the space.
So as you gear up for your upcoming operations management lectures, I want you to keep this massive strategic puzzle in the back of your mind. From that very first brainstorming session to the exact process strategy chosen, every single decision forever shapes the physical layout and capacity of the businesses we interact with every day. Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer. And I gotta ask, the next time you order a quick meal, take a look behind the counter and ask yourself, how exactly are they altering their layout right now just to chase your demand?